Hello everyone. I wanted to do a little something different today than from my usual vlogs, and I wanted to film a sit down little quarter 1 reading book wrap up. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys every book that I bought and every book that I read between January and March of 2025. So I'm really excited about this. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so I'm going to start with everything that I bought, and I'm going to go by month so that you guys, for no particular reason, I'm going to go by month. So, as we can see, January was quite the heavy buying month for me. I'll say it's all because of Christmas. I had Christmas money and I was buying. And trying to stock up for all of the book clubs that I know I'm going to be involved in this year. So I was going ahead and grabbing things that I knew we were reading later in the year. But anyway, here is my January buys. I'm not going to really give any synopsis on them. Maybe brief, but not really. Okay, so first up off the pile, we have from Half Price Books, Miss East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I'm reading this with the Game of Tomes book club. It's actually the pick for this next quarter, for April through June, I believe. Yeah, my brain is not mathing right now, but this is the Game of Tomes pick for the next little bit, and so book club on Fable, and so I picked this one up in January because I knew we were going to be reading it, so I have that ready to read, locked and loaded, excited about that one. And then I picked up The Sea Queen from Books A Million. I think it was on their clearance. It was $5, so really wonderful for me. And if you know anything about me, I love the ocean, I love pirates, and I love just ships. I really don't know if this has anything to do with pirates. It looks like it has something to do with Vikings. Okay, cool. That'll work. I was going to say, I had no idea what it really has to do with, but it said The Sea Queen, and it looked like that, and which blends in with my walls. And so if a book blends in with my walls, it's probably coming home with me. So that was the second book that I bought in January. And then I went to a new local bookstore one day in January, and I picked up Danielle L. Jensen's The Bridge Kingdom, which I've heard is a beloved series, but I know nothing about it. And once again, it matches my walls, sort of. It's also really reflective, very pretty, love it so much. And it has something to do with water. The map inside is so beautiful. So of course it has something to do with water, it matches my walls, and so it came home with me. And then from Goodwill one day, I actually, don't murder me for this, I have never read the Chronicles of Narnia series. I've read two. I've read 3 of the Chronicles of Narnia books. I have read number 1, number 3, and number 6, I believe. 3 and 6 were assigned reading one year for summer reading going into the next year of school, so I've read those, but I've never read the whole series, and so I've been slowly collecting them, and I found book 4 and 5, Prince Caspian and the Voyage of the Dawn Treader, at Goodwill one day, so obviously they had to come home with me so that I can hopefully complete the collection of a book that I've never read, but we'll get to it, don't worry. And then also in January, at another local bookstore, I had to pick up, obviously, the 3rd book to R.F. Kuang's Poppy War series, The Burning God. Finished this up in January and absolutely loved it. I'm not usually a fan of books about gods, but I loved this series so much. R.F. Kuang knows how to write, and I'm excited. I'm going to be reading Fable later this month, also at the Game of Tomes book club, and I think I'll probably pick up Yellowface at some point this year, so really excited, and I'm so excited for Calabasas. But anyway, really excited to get through the rest of her work, but that was that book that I picked up. And then I picked up The Crescent Moon Tea Room because I'm always interested in a witchy, cozy fantasy story. don't know much else about it. It's just really cute, and it looks precious, and I love it, so I'm really excited to get into that. I've always loved the, what is that class called in Fairy Butter? Whatever class Professor Trelawney taught. I can't think of what it's called right now, but I've always loved sort of the idea behind trying to read tea leaves and things like that, so I'm excited. I think that's what this focuses on. Like I said, I really don't know, so picked it up. And then I am going to be reading, for the first time ever, I'm going to be reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy this year, and so I found number 2. I found the Two Towers at a Goodwill one day, thankfully, and then Half Price Books had the first one in the same sort of cover, the same edition that I found at Goodwill for number 2, and so I got the first one, The Fellowship of the Rings, so I'm really excited to be reading that this year. That's everything I bought in January, so moving into February. February was a lot lighter of a book buying month. I only bought 2, and I bought them on the same day from the same store. Maybe pat me on the back, maybe don't, because I did still leave the bookstore with 2 books, so whatever. I picked up Brandon Sanderson's Tress of the Emerald Sea. Again, something to do with pirates, something to do with water, and obviously we know Brandon Sanderson. Heard nothing but good about his worlds and his stories, so I'm just excited. It's water and it's, I think, pirates, I believe, so obviously had to pick that up. And then I finally gave in and picked up My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Miss Otessa Moshfegh, and I was really excited. I was really excited to buy this. I did read it also I read it this month. I read it in March, but we'll talk about that more later. But that's the other book that I bought in February. And then moving into March, this past month, what I bought in March. Also what I would consider not a light buying month, but I bought 5 books, and I bought 4 of them used. So I always feel good when I do that because I just love buying used books. I love knowing that someone else owned the book that I'm buying before I did. So first up, I picked up Miss Daisy Miller by Henry James. I had heard a couple people, actually. I watched like 2 vlogs in a row, and I heard both people talking about Daisy Miller, and so when I saw it the next day in a used bookstore, I knew that I had to pick it up and take it home, and I had no idea it was this small, but I'm really excited to get into that. This one was really fun as well because it has a very old boarding pass for Delta Airlines going from New York City to Cincinnati, so I thought that was really cool. So I think that will have a bookmark in here, but I think that will end up being my bookmark because that's really cool for me. I have no idea what year this is from, but it is really, really cool, and I love finding things like this in people's books that I have bought. So that is the first one that I bought in March. And then again, the Game of Thomas Book Club, the pick for January to March was The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, but I couldn't find a physical copy of it anywhere, and I didn't want to order one because I'm trying not to order books this year. I want to find everything that I buy like organically. And I'm telling myself that if I don't find it organically, then it's not meant for me to read or to buy at that moment. So, but I finally found The Magic Mountain about 3 days before March ended. So, planning on attempting this sometime in the rest of the year. So, I'm excited to finally have that one in my hands. And then at the same bookstore that I bought the last 2 at, I picked up Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I've heard a couple people talking about this, just, you know, through the past years, mixed feelings on it, and the way that women are portrayed as well, but always love adding another Penguin classic to my shelf, and I've heard the book mentioned, so if I hear it mentioned and I see it, it will probably end up on my bookshelves at some point. So that is another one that I bought. And then I also picked up Patti Smith's Year of the Monkey. I read Just Kids in January of last year, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think I said in one of my blogs, I studied photography in college, and so I've obviously heard a lot about Robert Mapplethorpe, and so that was mainly the reason I picked up Just Kids. But then reading it, I really enjoyed Patty's writing style, and just, I always love memoirs and biographies. I just love hearing about other people's lives. I think it's so fun and a way to really experience things that I wouldn't get to experience otherwise, which I think is the whole point of reading. But I really love real life accounts of things, and so Year of the Monkey is another Patti Smith memoir, so I'm really excited to get to that at some point. And then the last book that I bought just a couple days ago at the bookstore. I bought The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon? I don't know. I butchered names. Sorry. But I'm really excited because we're going on a trip to Alaska this summer, which I am so excited about and so grateful to be able to do. But I had said that I wanted sort of a murder mystery set in a colder area, and then my bookshop's theme of the month just so happened to be set in a small town, and this was one of the picks, and so I got to go and get that, and so I'm really excited to get to pick this up while I'm in Alaska, and I don't think it'll disappoint. It has great reviews, so I'm really excited about this. But that right there is every book that I bought in the first 3 months. So now I'm going to, hold on, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And guess how many I read in the last 3 months? I read 15. I always try and not buy more than I've read, and I thought I had bought more than I read, but apparently not. Let me recount that to make sure. Nope, yep. So somehow I read 15 and I only bought 14, so. Anyway, moving on to what I read. Alright, so getting into the books that I read this past quarter. Obviously I said I read 15. I did not say that they were the same ones that I bought, so keep that in mind. One in, one out. Anyway, so going in order from the first thing I read, I'm also going to have to pull up my phone because I read quite a few through my library, audiobook or ebook, so I will have to keep this with me so that I can reference. Anyway, this one feels a little bit like cheating, starting off, because I started this book December 2nd, and I finished it on January 3rd. So majority of this book was read in December, but Fable is the book app that I use. Love Fable. But Fable categorizes this as a book that I read this year, so I will too, just so I can keep everything in check. So I read the second book in R.F. Kuang's Poppy War trilogy, The Dragon Republic. Loved it. I have to say I liked the first one better. Obviously, I think the first book in a series is always the best, so I enjoyed the Poppy War more than this one. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. And my only review for it was absolutely brilliant. I'm reminded every day that I pick these books up that I would be horrible at war. I really don't know how in the world people do that. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. If you're ever thinking about picking up this trilogy, do it. It's wonderful. And then I'll talk about the third one in a second. And then in between that one and the third one, I picked up Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Boys. I have never read this series before, but I've obviously only ever heard fantastic things about it. I, however, didn't love it. I don't know if it's the fact that it's a middle grade and I am not, or middle grade, it's young adult. I don't know. It's scholastic, so I always count that as middle grade. I shouldn't, but I don't know if it was that or if it was just, I don't know, something about it didn't really hit for me. Halfway through, I ended up switching to the audiobook just so that I could listen to it quicker and get it over with, which I hate because I really wanted to enjoy this. My mom read this and The Dream Thieves, and she absolutely loved it, but she hasn't finished the series, mainly because she just bums what's on my bookshelf. But I read this and I just wasn't thrilled with it. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars, which is about an average rating for me, but just not one that I loved. But I know a lot of people love it. Just really not for me. But what was for me was The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the third book in the Poppy War trilogy. The third book in the Poppy War trilogy. Just really good. I really can't talk about it unless you've read, you know, all three. But just really good. I think the way that it was wrapped up, the ending of it was, I think it was perfect. I really don't think it could have ended another way. It was difficult because you're reading it and you're really rooting for the main character, but you also know that there is no physically possible way that the main character can succeed. And it's so difficult to know that you maybe shouldn't be rooting for them, or that you probably know what's going to happen, but you just can't, you can't not root for them. But it was wonderful. It was heartbreaking. It was just good. I didn't feel like anything in this trilogy was put in as shock factor or wow factor. Everything was necessary and it had its place, and the side characters were lovable, just everything. She was unlikable and likable, and you couldn't not root for her. But anyway, that is the third book that I read this year, The Burning God. And then the next one was so highly anticipated for me, due to, I think, Emmy reads on BookTube. She is phenomenal and I love her recommendations always. I do think we have a little bit of a different reading taste, but also maybe not. But I usually will pick up anything she recommends, and this one was no different. The second she recommended and was talking about it, I was on the hunt for it, and I finally found it. But that is Mr. Orhan Pamuk's Snow. I wanted to read this, obviously, when it was snowing, and thankfully I did. We had quite a few inches of snow in January, and so I got to get to this one then, and it was phenomenal. It was kind of like, I always would read The Secret History when it was snowing outside, because if you've read The Secret History, you know. But reading it, I said this one might become my new snow book. Obviously, no thanks to the name, just the book in general. It's really good. It takes place in the forlorn city of Kars, where a wave of suicides among religious schoolgirls forbidden to wear their headscarves shocks the community. The grim reports grab the attention of Ka, an exiled poet who returns from the West to Turkey, determined to investigate the events. While in the epicenter of the suicides, Ka is drawn to Ipek, a friend of his youth whom he never forgot, and whose spirited younger sister is the leader of the elusive schoolgirls. So pretty much he goes to investigate this string of suicides, but while he's there he falls into trouble with the law there. I don't think he's technically supposed to be there. Everyone's very concerned that he is a Westerner coming into Turkey and trying to get all this information. No one believes that he's there for a good reason. And I don't think that he believes in himself either. But it was just really interesting. The ending, I don't think, was quite what I was expecting, but it was really good. I ended up giving it a 4 stars, and one of the things that I really said about it, that I remember being sad that I felt this way about, but I didn't feel like I got probably the full message of this book, how it was supposed to come across. And I think, honestly, it's just due to the translation. I don't think it has anything to do with the book itself. I think something between translating from, I think this was written in Turkish, maybe? Just the translation between the dialogue was really what got me. Their dialogue felt really stiff and just not natural, not how you would speak to someone, and it sort of grated on my nerves a little bit while I was reading, but Again, I don't think it has anything to do with the book itself. The book itself was fantastic. I loved the messages that would sort of spread throughout and not like shoved down your throat, but they were spread and you could really gather them if you wanted to. But I don't think my lack of a 5-star had anything to do with the book. I think it was just the translation. But that was the 4th book that I read this year, Snow. And then the next book I read as an ebook, so I will place a picture of it right over here. And it was A Sorceress Comes to Call by Miss T. Kingfisher. And I loved this book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. What did I say? I said, this book has it all. Geese, sorcery, old people in love, murder, and an overbearing mother. Genuinely such a quick and enjoyable read. And it was my bedtime book for quite a while, and I found myself staying up later than I should have, flying through the pages. I think it's very easy to do when you're reading an ebook as well. You just keep scrolling and you don't realize how much of it you've read. But this book, it really was good. I really don't remember a synopsis for it I can find. So it's the story of Cordelia and her mother, who is quite overbearing, and her mother actually has magical powers to where she can affect what Cordelia does. She can essentially control her body, her movements, she can't control her thoughts, but she can control the things that her body does. And her mother ends up attempting to woo this very rich man and trying to use Cordelia in a way to sort of get a good in with the family so that she can end up yanking all of his money out from under him. Obviously, in doing that, Cordelia, she's able to get help from the man's family and friends and sort of lead them along the path of, hey, my mother is not so great. But it was really good. It was really fun. I think certain parts of it, there were more serious things that happened, but you didn't feel stressed. I didn't feel stressed. I felt, I enjoyed it a lot. I had a good time reading the whole thing, regardless of what was happening. Even though there was death and there was murder, but it was still fun. And there was also like a demon horse. Just really good overall. There are geese, like I said, but A Sorceress Comes to Call. It was my first T. Kingfisher ever. I've always heard good things about Kingfisher, but I really enjoyed that book. But anyway, might not be the best place to start with her work, but that's where I started, and I loved it. Next was not my first 5-star. No, The Burning God was my first 5-star read of the year. This next book happened to be my second 5-star read of the year, and that was Hamnet by Miss Maggie O'Farrell. I adored this book so much. It's about the Black Plague. This specifically is about the Black Plague sweeping across England around the 1580s. Pretty much, I didn't know anything about Shakespeare other than his plays, but it's pretty much a fictional account following Shakespeare and Shakespeare's family and his son Hamnet, who Hamlet is written after. And his son, this is no surprise, it tells you it in the first page, so no spoilers here, but Hamnet ends up passing due to this plague, and it's pretty much just this fictional account following his mother and father as they were young and meeting each other, and then so it flip-flops perspectives back and forth between when they were young and meeting each other to now when they have the son Hamnet and everything that's happening within their home. Really good, really heartbreaking. It was just wonderful. It's really odd to try and think about the lives of these really big historical figures who I don't think we ever really question what happened. Some people do, and that's, I think, why historians have jobs, but I've never particularly questioned what Shakespeare's life looked like outside of writing plays, but this delves a little bit into it, even fictionally, and it's absolutely wonderful. So if you ever get a chance or you're interested at all, pick up Hamnet. It is so good. Then my next book, which happened to be my third 5-star read in a row. Can you believe that I read 2 5-star reads in a row? It's insane to me. But this was a book that I have put off picking up for so long because it was so highly anticipated for me. I wanted to love the book so badly, and in wanting to love the book so badly, I had put off picking it up forever. I found it at Goodwill years ago, and I just have never picked it up because I was so afraid I wouldn't like it because I wanted to love it. And thank the book gods, I loved this book. And that is The Night Circus by Miss Erin Morgenstern. It was so good. I don't know if... I love spirals, so I don't know if the word spiral or swirl dropped within this book about 100 times had anything to do with my love for it. But it was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, the circus arrives without warning. No announcements precede it. It is simply there when yesterday it was not. Within the black and white striped canvas tents is an utterly unique experience full of breathtaking amazements. It is called Le Cirque des Rêves, and it is only open at night. It is so good. There was just so... Although there were outside things happening, you have the competition going on, and you have these outside people. I love the... What were they called? The revieurs? Reveries? I don't speak French. I don't know what they were called, but the people who followed the circus everywhere it went. I relate because I've always been a band follower, and me and my friends will follow bands from state to state to state following, and so it really, I saw a piece of myself in those people, but it was just so good. Everything about it, wonderful, so whimsical, so magical, and the descriptions were beautiful. It was everything that my black and white and red spiral heart has ever wanted, and it was so good. Put me on a little bit of a circus fashion kick, but anyway, that was that book that I read. And then next, I'm just going to combine these two. I read the first and second book in the, what is it called? I believe it's in the Regency Fairy Tale series. Half a Soul and 10,000 Stitches, both by Miss Olivia Atwater. I thought they were wonderful. I gave Half a Soul 4 stars, and I gave 10,000 Stitches 3.5 stars. Half a Soul was really Howl's Moving Castle-esque. The main love interest, he was just so grumpy, and it was so good, and I really won't say too much about them, but I think they did really well balancing the romance and the historical aspect, throwing in the magic, and also focusing on real life things that were happening. The first one really focused on workhouses, so sort of sweatshop vibes, and I think that's a crazy sentence. Sweatshop vibes? Okay, wow. Hold on. But it really focused on the problem with that and child labor and that kind of thing, and getting those children out, and sort of the life that they experience within that, and never getting to have a regular childhood, where 10,000 Stitches also brought into play the focus on how servants and the housemaids are treated, and how they're not viewed as real people. And so I think they did really well combining the fun romance with the magic with the real life problems, and it just all around really good. I will probably be picking up the rest of the series, but that was those two. And then next I read Wuthering Heights, my first real classic. I know I talked quite a bit about it in my vlogs. I would say crazy, I would say insane, but it wasn't. I was expecting it to be, I was really expecting more haunting, more thrills, more, boo, I'm gonna scare you, you killed me, Heathcliff, that kind of thing, and it just wasn't there. It was kind of boring. I didn't have a problem finishing it. I think maybe that was due to the writing, but I had no issues getting through it. I just found that when I got to the end of it, I didn't care. And, yeah, that's about all I got for that one. I think I ended up giving it, I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, that's about right. This should not be classified as a romance. I get it, but it shouldn't. So toxic, so horrible. Everyone in it was bad, except for our main narrator. Anyway, moving on. After that, My first book of March to finish was My Year of Rest and Relaxation. Obviously said I picked this up in February and I read it in March, which is very odd for me to buy one and read it so quickly after I have picked it up. But I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I wouldn't say it would be like it's not my new Bible or anything. Whoa, calm down. And I definitely won't be idolizing the book, but I think it was just interesting. Seeing this account of someone who really they believe that their only option in life is to sleep away a year of their life. But also interesting, and I get it because I wish I could hibernate sometimes. And I'll say that the end of it shocked me. Little bit of a spoiler here, so just skip ahead a little bit. I was expecting her to die, either from exhaustion or overdosing or straight up suicide, but it didn't happen. She came out of it feeling fantastic, and honestly, I'm happy for her. I think that might have been what really solidified my liking for the book. A lot of people were saying that the main character was incredibly unlikable, and I don't really think so. I think she had some stuff going on, and she was dealing with it the best way that she knew how. Obviously, she didn't grow up in a very loving home. She didn't have a great family life, and so I can absolutely see how that would affect her. Overall, really good. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, so that's My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And then my next 3 actually were on my phone. In one day, in one fell swoop, while I was crocheting my poncho, finishing it up, I listened to Beyond the Wand, which is Tom Felton's memoir. Again, love a good memoir. Am a Harry Potter fan, and I'm a Slytherin. So, of course, and as I've stated in another video, I had a crush on Draco Malfoy. But I really just loved this account of his life. I loved hearing about what went on behind the scenes at Harry Potter, hearing about his life growing up. I think it's, we take for granted these people's celebrity and we don't realize that they haven't always had it. And so I love hearing about his childhood and the things he did in his younger teen years and even his struggles into adulthood and hearing about it. Obviously I didn't rate it. I never rate memoirs because I don't think that they should be rated because it's not fictional. I'm not judging based on their ability to write, and I'm not judging their life. So I don't rate memoirs, but I really did enjoy it. It was so good. And of course I listened to it on audiobooks, so I listened to it in his voice. And it was really fun to listen to, and I really enjoyed it. Then the next book that I read was a little bit of a disappointment for me, I'll be honest. I read Watermoon by Samantha Soto Yembao, and the premise of it was fantastic. I've talked about it in a couple of vlogs, but it's this girl who, her family has always owned a pawn shop, and so she is inheriting it from her father. Only the day that she is to start running the pawn shop herself, she wakes up and finds the pawn shop has been ransacked and her father is missing. And then all of a sudden, who walks in the front door but our 5-second love interest? It was very insta-lovey. I felt that while a lot of the descriptions were beautiful and very whimsical and very immersive, I felt like I was in another world. I didn't feel like a lot of it was necessary. It did feel shock and wow factor-ish. Just certain things that occurred, I felt like they were filler and they didn't need to occur for the story to move on. Also don't really understand the ending. I didn't love the ending. A lot of things about it were just sort of off for me, but it was still a very good time. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. Mainly I think because I loved the premise of the pawn shop, that you could go in and you could pawn off your life's biggest regret. And it's, because I love the thought of that, and I love the anything to do with sort of butterfly effect, and if you would change that one point in your life, where would you be at now, and all of that kind of thing, which obviously they weren't changing anything about their lives, just getting rid of that, but I wish that the book had focused on that more, but I know that there are other books out there who do sort of the same premise, sort of Before the Coffee Gets Cold and The Midnight Library, that kind of thing. That's what I was aiming for, and it really wasn't what I got from it. But I still enjoyed it. It's really fun. Gave Studio Ghibli a little bit. Ghibli? I always say Ghibli. I really don't know. But that is Watermoon by Samantha Sotoyambao. And then another 3-star read was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Like I said, I read Sorceress Comes to Call earlier this year, and then What Moves the Dead was my most recent finish. It's a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher. I, going into this book, had never actually read The Fall of the House of Usher. I have now because I read it halfway through reading this little novella because I needed to know what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. The only thing I have seen regarding The Fall of the House of Usher was the Netflix show, The Fall of the House of Usher. And I loved that show, which was really why I wanted to pick up this book. And going into it, I had already heard mixed reviews. Some people didn't like it, some people loved it. Just very mixed, and I ended up 3 stars is smack dab in the middle. I do think I erred a little bit towards I think if there was a 3.25 star, that's what I would be giving it, 3.25, but alas, there was not, so I give it 3 stars. The whole premise was good. I liked the idea of Madeline not just being dead, or not just being undead, but she was undead and able to be kept alive due to some spoilers here, so skip ahead if you would like. Okay. Her being undead due to the fungus that was growing within her, which I thought was really interesting, the way that they described that it could like grow, and that the fungus had a consciousness, and that it would like, even when her neck was broken, that it would like connect her spine still, that the fungus could grow and keep her moving and alive. I just thought that was a really interesting take on it. What really threw me off was the pronouns that were used. In this is part of T. Kingfisher's Sworn Soldier series, which I didn't know. I didn't know anything about going into this, so maybe that's on me. But the Sworn Soldiers are usually a genderless soldier, and they go by the pronouns ka and kan. Now, my only issue here was that everyone was using regular words. Everything was normal, so normal, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the fact that Ka can't get up onto Khan's horse. So all of a sudden I'm taken aback for a minute. I have to pull myself together and remember what we're talking about, and the fact that these people, these are the pronouns being used. It was just a little bit of something that took me out of the story. I get that it's a whole T. Kingfisher world, and again, that's her thing. Do it. Love it. Some people probably really enjoy it. It just, for this specifically, took me out of the story every time I saw it. I really do think that was my only complaint, though, but unfortunately it was able to drop it 2 stars. But it was really good. It was quick. It was interesting. It was fun. Not fun. It was interesting, but I enjoyed that. 3 stars worth. And then my last book that we've heard plenty about was Miss Tara Sims' The City of Dusk. This I picked up 3 or 4 years ago now on a Barnes & Noble discount table. And since then, I've really heard no one talk about it. I've never seen it discussed on BookTube, Book Talk. It's never gone viral. And I think I understand why. When I got to the end of this one, I realized I really didn't know what was going on. I really didn't know. I was at the last 5 pages and I said, I don't know what's happening. I do, but I don't. I ended up not rating it. I did not give it a review because, like I said, I really don't know what happened. And I feel like I would need to know what happened to rate it. In the beginning, I felt like I was going good. I was invested in the main characters and their storylines and what was going on. But I have realized through reading this book, and I'm not talking about the Poppy War trilogy here, keeping that name out of my mouth right now. I absolutely love that trilogy. But I have found that I really don't particularly care for books or anything having to do with gods or Greek mythology and the way that gods will inhabit a human. And another thing about this book, hold on. So this is a city where there are 4 realms, and for every realm there's a god, and the families of these realms are heirs of these gods. They have the god's power within them. The god does not inhabit them, but they have the god's power within them since they are descendants of this god. So throughout a majority of the book, we just hear about these descendants of the gods, and they're doing their thing. They have certain jobs within the city because of the powers that they have. But it is never discussed that they can speak to their god or that the gods can inhabit them. And then all of a sudden there's 4 parts of this book. In the last quarter of this book, all of a sudden the gods are at war and they're inhabiting the humans. And once that happened, you lost me. Had no idea what was going on. I didn't know who was who anymore, because now we're not referring to the people as the people's names. We're referring to them as the god's name, and I didn't even know who the god belonged to in the first place. I don't know what's going on. Really don't know what's going on. The characters that I was invested in the very beginning sort of just stopped getting talked about, and or their storylines just became very flat, and I didn't care. There was no up and down. There was no back and forth. There was nothing to keep me rooting for any of these characters. Maybe one, but he wasn't even a main character. I was rooting for the side characters more than I was the main characters, and for me that's a little bit of an issue. But other than this being a very chunky and long book, I am proud of myself for getting through this book. It was one that was sitting on my shelves, and I never thought that I was ever going to pick it up because I bought it so long ago and I really didn't think I was ever going to get around to reading it. I am glad that I read it to know now that it's solidified in me that I really don't like books about gods or any sort of like Greek mythology type deal. And so I'm glad I know that now so I can keep away from that sort of genre. I wouldn't say to just completely write it off your list. I would say if it's something that sounds interesting to you, then pick it up. But if not, then don't. I don't want to say waste your time, because I feel like any sort of reading is not wasting time, but don't waste your time on it. And I can say that I will not be, more than likely, I will not be picking up the 2nd or 3rd book in the Dark Gods trilogy. If I ever do, keep your mouth shut. We're not worried about it. Let me do my thing. But yeah, so that is The City of Dusk by Tara Sam, and that is every book that I've read this quarter, plus some ebooks, so it should be like up to here. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out. I don't really think I want to be like a booktuber, but I know that I have thoughts on books, and I know that people will watch it. So, yeah, if you want more stuff like this, I can absolutely do it, but still just a document in my life. But, yeah, anyway, until next time, hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see ya. Read some good books, and I'll try to do the same. But, bye!